Blood is a connective tissue that is part of the cardiovascular system. You'll remember that connective tissue has as its function transportation and protection, and the blood cells are what perform these functions. Blood is composed of two basic components. We have the plasma, which is mostly water. About 55% of the blood is plasma. The remaining 45% of the blood are the formed elements. These are the cells of the blood, and there are three cell types: erythrocytes, or red blood cells, leukocytes, or white blood cells, and thrombocytes, or platelets. When we look at a blood film, these red discs that are very numerous and have the slight central pallor are the erythrocytes. The platelets are the little tiny blue cell fragments, and the white blood cells are colored pinks and purples because they've been stained, and each cell type has some different characteristics. The red blood cells, or the erythrocytes, are the ones that transport oxygen. They're red because they contain hemoglobin. There are 4 to 6 million red blood cells per cubic millimeter of blood. Now, a millimeter is that smallest measurement on a metric ruler. So imagine a little box that is that big on all sides, and then imagine 4 to 6 million cells fitting into that box with space left over for other stuff. Red blood cells are unique in that they have no nucleus. We say that they are biconcave discs. On the surface of the red blood cells are a number of proteins that are known as antigens. These glycoproteins are responsible, among other things, for blood group and type, whether you're group A positive or B negative. The thrombocytes, or the platelets, are involved in blood clotting. This is one of the protective features of the blood. There are 150,000 to 400,000 of these per cubic millimeter of blood. And these are not true cells. They're little cell fragments. They're little bits of cytoplasm that contain the enzymes necessary for clotting to occur. The leukocytes, or the white blood cells, protect us against infection. There are about 4,800 to 11,800 of these per cubic millimeter of blood. And there are two major types of leukocytes. The granulocytes have lobed nuclei and have cytoplasmic granules. There are three of these: the neutrophils, the eosinophils, and the basophils. The agranulocytes have rounded nuclei and no cytoplasmic granules, and there are two of these: lymphocytes and monocytes. Neutrophils make up most of the white blood cell population. Here you see what we mean by a lobed nucleus. It looks like there's really more than one nucleus, but they're held together by little threads here. And you can notice that this looks kind of granular in the background. These granules don't pick up any particular dye, so they're neutral. The eosinophils have the same lobed nucleus, but this time the granules stain pink. Only about 2 to 4% of your white blood cell population are eosinophils. They're very effective in helping you fight allergies. And basophils have the same lobed nucleus, but this time the granules are a very dark blue. These help you fight off other kinds of infection. They're very rare, 0.5% to 1% of your white blood cell population. In the agranulocytes, you have the lymphocytes. Lymphocytes have the rounded nucleus, and most of them have a very narrow band of cytoplasm. 25 to 45% of your blood cell population are lymphocytes. So between the neutrophils and the lymphocytes, this is the most common thing you see in your blood. Lymphocytes make antibodies that protect you against invading organisms. And monocytes are much larger. They have more cytoplasm, and while their nucleus is round, it tends to be a little bit indented. About 3 to 8% of your white blood cells are monocytes. These cells can actually leave the blood and travel through the tissues where they can eat cell fragments. They're phagocytic cells. We mentioned that the red blood cells had the antigens on their surface. This is what gives us our blood type and our blood group, these glycoproteins on the surface of the red blood cell. In order to determine your blood group or your blood type, we use something called an antisera. An antisera will have antibodies that will react with the antigens. We have antisera for A and B and Rh. If the antigen is present, then the blood cells will clump up or agglutinate. So this is a cell that has a antigen and an Rh antigen. This would be an A positive type cell. This one has an A antigen, a B antigen, and an Rh antigen. It would be an AB positive cell. This one only has the B antigen, no Rh antigen, so it's B negative, and this has no antigens whatsoever. So it's neither A nor B, that makes it O, and no Rh, that makes it negative. AB positive is sometimes called the universal recipient because they can take blood from any other blood group, and O negative is called the universal donor because they can donate to any blood group. Here you see an example of the antisera. Here the antisera with antibodies to A is mixed with the patient's blood, and we don't see any agglutinations, so it doesn't have A antigens on it. Here we mix the antibodies to B with the patient's blood, and here you see the clumping or the agglutination. This indicates that the B antigens are present. So B with no A, this is group B blood. We haven't tested this for our age, so we can't add the positive or the negative. In terms of donating and receiving blood, group A people will have A antigens. They will automatically have anti-B antibodies. They can donate to anyone who has A antigens, and they can receive from anyone who has A antigens or no antigens. People with group B blood have the B antigens. They automatically have anti-A antibodies. They can donate to anyone who has at least some B antigens. They can receive from anyone who has B antigens or no antigens. People who are AB have both A and B antigens on their red blood cells, so they have no naturally occurring antibodies. They can only donate to other people who have AB blood, but they can receive from any blood group. And people who are group O have no markers on their red blood cells, no antigens. They will have both anti-A and anti-B. They can donate to anyone, but they can only receive blood from group O people.